All right, cool.
Cool.
We're
Turn this
live
up
streaming
on.
all over the place. Just
Yeah,
praying and praying.
there you
That's
go. It's one way to do things.
It is live on 3 different Facebook pages and 2 YouTube channels.
Oh, dang. Okay.
No, I don't know if anyone's watching much of anything anywhere, not on YouTube, but we'll see what happens over time. It's a good
Yeah.
strategy, I think.
Yeah.
Better than nothing. So, yeah, all right, we got Doug Larson here today. My previous business partner. We built a CrossFit gym together, Faction Strength and Conditioning, and we had Barbell Shrugged together there for a long fucking run, and
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of good times. And so it's been a while since we've but you live in Tennessee now, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Back in
bounce all
Memphis.
over the place, so we don't talk a lot. We do catch up on the phone. People do ask me, he's like, "Are you guys still friends?"
Oh, yeah. People ask me the same thing. I answered that question today.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you tell people?
What do you say? Oh, yeah. I say, oh, yeah, me and Mike still talk, not as frequently as we used to, obviously, because we don't have projects we're working on together, but sure, for sure. Yeah, we still talk here and there, but it's more like, once a month, once every 2 months, that type of thing, just catch up calls. And then, but prior to COVID-19 kind of taking over the world, we'd run into each other at random events. You were just talking about going to the Arnold. I was probably going to be at the Arnold. I was thinking about it until the last moment, and then I decided I wasn't going to, and then it got canceled anyway, which is nice. Makes me feel like I'm not missing out. But we ran into each other at Spartan World Championships last year, and we're kind of in the same world. So I'm totally glad we're still friends. Everything.
not
I'm glad
all
everything worked out. And
not all business partnerships end that well.
yeah, I mean, I've certainly had partnerships that didn't end as well as our ending ended. And so I'm stoked that after having, we were business partners, technically starting in 2009, but really you started the gym in 2007 when we were still roommates. And so I was
Yeah.
kind of involved from day one, and then so really from 2007 all the way till we technically ended our business partnership together. What was that? Very end of 2018 is what the paperwork said. So I think that's 11 years, 11-year run. I'd like to stay friends with somebody that I considered my best friend and business partner for over a decade.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
wild. Not many people now I was like, what are we gonna talk about? Oh, now I know. What would you say? I've listened to shows. I've listened to different entrepreneurs, people who have been in business for 20 plus years, and I've heard this from a few people that have been in business longer than 10 years. And you and I both hit this point around the same time, which is until you've been in business for a decade, like there's just certain things you won't know. And I remember hearing that and then going, I don't know what they're talking about. We're crushing it. You know, there were moments, when we were crushing in business, and there were moments we were starving to death. But
Yeah.
uh, what is there anything that you have noticed that after being in business for over a decade it's like, oh, there's just no, I could not have known this at year 5 or 3 or whatever.
That I could not have known. Um,
Or that
well,
you were maybe you were exposed to information, but you just couldn't digest it, or there was something about it you now get that you just, oh wow, I didn't get that then, but seems like
yeah.
common knowledge now. You're like, oh, of course, that's how business is.
Yeah, maybe more of an emphasis. Like when me and you started doing Barbell Business, we had that podcast there for a couple of years. We did shy of 200 episodes, and the very first episode we ever did, as you likely remember, was all about just picking the right partner, like picking the
Yeah,
right team. Partner. Your partner is the first person on your team, and kind of the most important people on your team are your partners, and then you have the rest of your team as well. And I always knew that was an important thing. I probably never would have started a gym, during graduate school all on my own. It just wouldn't have happened. But having you and Rob around to do that, and then I came in and kind of just helped run the place, realizing that, yeah, I have some some motivation to run businesses, but my motivation to start businesses wasn't a natural thing. And so it was good to have someone who, like yourself, who's a little more entrepreneurial to kind of balance me out. Having that complementary partner, I think, is really, really powerful. And I've continued over time um, to recognize that even though I thought it was important before, I now even think it's more important who you partner with, not just from a complementary technical level, but you have to be aligned on values and goals and everything else. Um, and so that's just something you just can't get away from. You just have to have the right people on the team. And the longer you're in business, the more important the relationships become, in my opinion. You can make big money doing one thing or the next, but if you lose all your friends or real friendships along the way, even if you have money, it's just it's not nearly as fun. It's not nearly as fulfilling. So having good partners, I think, is really, really valuable. And that was one thing that you said to me, or we said to each other, prior to actually formally on paper exiting as business partners. I was like, you wanted to move on to some new things, and I'm still and have always been really interested in fitness specifically. And I was like, well, I recognize that you want to move on to other interesting topics in your life, and you want to take on a new path, but I want to have that complementary partner. And so that's why we kind of talked and recruited Anders into the business, into Barbell Shrugged. That way I could have that complementary partner. And I actually really appreciate, I don't know if I directly told you this, but I really appreciate you hanging around for as long as you did, just so I could have that partner and I wasn't just left, high and dry all by myself. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. I wouldn't have it any other way. What, thanks for hanging out with me for so long. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, I don't know what your audience knows about all the shit we went through, but we went through a lot.
I'm like, yeah, man, you're welcome. I'm like, hang on a second. I was like, well, here's the thing is,
yeah, that's what me and my wife say to each other. She says, "You're holding me up." I go, "You're holding me up too." We're holding each other up. We're like two chopsticks just leaning into each other. if anybody moves, like the other one face plants. Referencing raising I had 3 kids in 3 years, and that's it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. So, my it's like a lot of times people ask, and I like asking this question of like, would you was that necessary to get where you are now? And the answer is always, well, yeah, because that's what happened, right? And so I look back on the early years of business, and I was like, I think this is a really good conversation and business partnership. This is such a good topic because it's so confusing.
Can you hear background noise right now?
No,
okay.
No, it's so confusing and it's so difficult for business partnerships. There's a lot of things that, like, I look from the outside into somebody else's business, I'm like, ooh, that's a business partnership that should probably end. Or, oh wow, you guys, like, I'm working with somebody right now who has 3 business partners, and I'm like, I find out there's 3 business partners that when they start working with us, and I go, oh no. And then I find out all the business partners, who they are and how they all work together. I go, oh wow, this is actually very magical. And so I think most people do it poorly, whereas most business is done poorly. So, I think just like anything in the world, 90% of the businesses, 90% of the partnerships, all that are done poorly. And then the 10% just crush it and do really, really well. That was one of the things that I didn't feel like I did it on purpose necessarily. Like, as far as us being complementary business partners, there was so much that I imagine that I would have actually learned had we not been business partners. There was so many things that you introduced me to. So, anytime I talk to anyone who's successful, we end up, there's always all the things you could, I was hanging out with one of my buddies who's really successful in business the other night, and he lists off all the things he did well, and that's why he's successful. And he goes, well, then there's all the luck that happened, and
a lot of that.
And it was like, yeah, we were all in preparation. We were doing a lot of the right things, but like us becoming business partners and you introducing me to a lot of things that now are normal to me. But at the time I was totally naive to, and vice versa, I imagine.
Hmm.
So it was like we were very, it wasn't one of those things where we sat down and go, man, our personality types are like this and, and we should be business partners. It was more of like, I think, Doug would make a good business partner. He'd really be able to help out at the gym and this and that. And then you were in agreement, and then that happened. And we were really fortunate that we were complementary versus what I see a lot in business partnerships where people are the same. It's like two
Hmm.
people that are very much alike trying to basically do the same job. It's like two people trying to do the same job. And ours was very complimentary. Anyways, I want to point out, like, yeah, I appreciate how long you stuck with me, because like one of the things that makes us complementary is also some of the things that cause stress in my perspective. And I would love to know if you agree or disagree,
Hmm.
but I'm very aggressive, and I didn't think I was that aggressive. Uh, until
Yeah.
like, it's like one of those things where like, you don't know your way until you like go hang out with some other people. And then like, everyone's like, yeah, you're this way. And you're like, oh, wow, I've had a dozen people all agree that I'm aggressive. Okay, I got it.
Right.
So, but at the time, it was just you telling me.
Right. Yeah. If it's just one person who's close to you telling you how to be, you're like, what the fuck do you know? Like, didn't you see yourself on Saturday? You were blacked out drunk. Get out of here. Like, come on now. That happens at every level. I'm sure like even like the most like buttoned up, put together, famous people, they have 20 million Instagram followers. Like they still like in their like deep, close personal relationships, like their best friend thinks he's fucking totally just a doofus. You know what I mean? Like he thinks he's
Yeah.
amazing, but also he's a doofus.
Yeah. He's really good at this thing. Everything else, he's an idiot.
Right. That's right. He has 20 million Instagram followers because he does backflips off buildings.
Yeah.
But he also does all these other things that are just ridiculous.
That's right. You should see the girls he dates. Oh,
Yeah.
it's gross.
Everyone's trouble behind closed doors at some level.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So like we were complimentary because I am more of a starter. I'm aggressive, like, and there's drawbacks to that. Like for every way of being, there's what you love about that piece, which is if you're a person who has these traits, then likely you're just going to see all the good parts. And
Mhm.
then, but then there's all the parts, the shadow that comes with that. Oh, that type of behavior means that like I have a tendency to start projects and not finish them, start too many at one time. Da, da, da.
Right.
And then for yourself, it was good to have you as a partner pull the reins back a bit as much as you could. But at the same time, that would cause, from my perspective, it was like causing you stress to try to pull me back. And it would cause me stress because whatever. And then intellectually going, okay, this is good. This is good
Yeah.
for me. This is good for the business, but it's driving me fucking crazy. So it's like, it
Right.
was, it was a really beautiful relationship, and that there's just so much learning to happen on like teaching me how to like being with you. It taught me how to slow down, whether you
Yeah.
believe that that actually happened or not.
Well, no, actually, I recognize that it had like there were times where, after we'd been in business for many many years, 8 years into it or whatever, where we would like I feel like sometimes we would flip flop. I'm like, there's this new cool thing, we need to go do it, and you're like, whoa, fucking pump the brakes, dude. And I'm like, and then we're like, how did we get here? Like, how come you're like being aggressive and proactive, and Bledsoe's telling me to like slow down and be more cautious. And vice versa. Like sometimes we would pass each other on the spectrum, but yeah, you definitely pulled me away from my side a little bit, and we met in the middle a lot more over the years, because we respect each other and know the other one has a valid perspective, even if it's not the exact same style being used. Like if you have a complementary business partner as far as temperament goes, but you're not aligned on your vision rather and your values, then you're going to fight a lot. I feel like
Yeah.
because your styles are so different, and then if you're disagreeing on where you're going, that's where the issues pop up. I think. But if you have a clear vision on what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you in our case, like back in the day, like we were super into weightlifting, super into CrossFit, like we love training together, like we were aligned on this very cool thing that we like so much, and then we had a complementary skill set to build a business around this thing we were so passionate about, and it worked amazingly well. If we didn't have that alignment, and we were just like two people that just were total opposites, and we were trying to do total opposite things at the same time, well then we'd fucking kill each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point is that the thing that everyone there are a few things that everyone on the team has to share for it to work. It was vision and values. You said the two things that are critical. I mean, there may be a few other things in there. There's definitely boundaries and guidelines that every company has and which everyone needs to adhere to for it to work well. But vision and values, especially with business partners, is the most critical. Um, I think for us, I know there were a few times we attempted to put our core values down on paper, like almost as if, you go read a business book or you go to a seminar and it's like, okay, you got your vision. It's like the vision we had down, in my experience, the vision was easy. A lot of ways. It was almost like there was like, well, which version of the vision do we want to go after? We could do anything. And then when it came down to values, it was like, okay, it's like we wanted a dozen values. It's like, can we get it down to five? And do you remember that being difficult?
Oh yeah, it was difficult every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you can put a list of values on the board and say, oh yeah, I agree with all those. You're supposed to have good integrity, and you're supposed to like work hard and whatever the hell you want to put on there, like all the generic big company values. It's hard. It's very difficult to select values that are authentically you and have them not look generic. Like again, if you go into like a big corporation and it says like commitment and integrity on the wall, you go, well, fuck. I mean, what business wouldn't want you to have integrity? But at the same time, like, does anyone at this business really believe it because it's so generic? Like, if you look at, you go to Burning Man. Burning Man has great core values. Like they're very unique and original and authentic to Burning Man. You read those values and you go, oh yeah, that's totally them,
Yeah.
and it's obvious. But creating those for yourself and having everyone, especially if you create them after you have formed a company and you're trying to do it like as a democracy with a group of people who are all very different, it's tough to settle on things that everyone agrees to, especially if you're looking at them hierarchically and you're going to rank them. This one's the most important, this one's the next most important, this one's the next most important, which that's kind of a more recent realization of mine, that you should rank them. Ray Dalio talks about doing that because
Mm.
inevitably, if you have 5 or 10 values, you can justify almost any behavior by cherry picking. No. Like I know it looks like I fucked everyone over, but I was in this case, because of core value number 6, I was actually doing the right thing. And so if you don't have a rank order where this one is the most important, like you put like, at the top of the mountain is like the one thing that should be the first thing that everyone thinks about regarding values, then you can just cherry pick your way into any decision.
I think that's an amazing point. I love ranking them. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think like when I think about people and temperament and partners, like I tend to think there's a spectrum for so many different qualities. Like you mentioned some of them earlier. You mentioned being like a quick start versus a good finisher. The Colby scores kind of can rank you there, where in your case you're way higher on quick start and I'm way higher on follow through and finishing projects. But there's many other spectrums there that I think are important to consider. It's like you're extroverted and I'm introverted. Um, you're more of a words person. I'm more of a numbers person. You're more artist. I'm more scientist. And we all end up somewhere on these spectrums. So to say that it's binary and you are this and I am that is not really useful, I don't think. But as far as a team goes and having complementary partners, you should, between the group of you, cover each end of all of these various spectrums. You want to have someone who's a little more liberal, and you want to have someone who's a little more conservative at times. Like if we look at the team we started Barbell Shrugged with, it was me, you, Rob, and CTP, and you are the CEO, kind of more on the artist side of things. I'm kind of more COO, more on the numbers side of things, and driving projects to completion. Rob is CFO; he's more of a numbers person. And the CTP was kind of like our lead creative, and he's more of an artist, more of a words person. So like having the team split down the middle like that, where it's kind of 2 people on this side and 2 people on this side, I think is really, really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the big challenges we had over time that is like it was my wanting to shift the vision or the plan too drastically. Um, it's like when I look back, I think I had the way I remember is having um, my ability to communicate was not nearly as good as it is now. And I remember bumping up against things, and it's obvious there was a lack of communication because there was conflict at times, and there was like disagreement on vision. And it was what I remember, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. What I remember is wanting to shift the vision, but not really being able to explain why very well, to where it would satisfy everybody on the team. Would you agree with that?
Um, yeah, at some level, for sure. I mean, I could easily say the same. Um, that wouldn't have specifically popped into my mind. I wouldn't have said that on my own, but at
Yeah.
some level, I do think it's true. But I think it's true for myself too, though. Like, I had things that I wanted to change and improve, and I didn't communicate it very well. Um, I think my big hang up there was not communicating in writing. Like,
Mm.
I love talking to people on the phone. I call people up and I talk to them on the phone for an hour and I tell them like all the stuff we're gonna do, and then I tell another person, and then there's like, the 20 other people didn't get the full story like everyone else did, and then everyone remembers it a little bit different. It changes in everyone's heads, it changes in my head, and it just wasn't written down anywhere. I think was a big problem, a big problem of mine. So I've actually been making a very conscious effort to communicate more, with just chat and email, but like laying out like a thorough outline of like, here's my thought process, here's where we're going, timelines, and then having it all documented has been really good for keeping people all aligned and on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. I'm big on following up a phone call with an email. Like, oh, I like the verbal communication to be able to work through the conversation quickly and easily. But yeah, let's write down, what we remember from this call that's supposed to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a ton of thought. There's a ton of most calls I have. There's like all these ideas that come up, but there's only one or two action items that come out of, even an hour long call where you discuss 10 different things.
Right. Yeah. I feel like, fuck, I just had a thought. Never mind. I lost it.
It'll come back. Maybe.
Maybe. Well, one other thing, I feel like one place that I wished I was better at back in the day was, when we had a big team and everyone was very close. Like we had one of like the coolest companies you could want. Like we're in business with all of our friends. Everybody was having a good time. We were making plenty of money. Our job was basically to travel the world with our best friends and hang out with cool people. It
Yeah.
was like I don't know what else you would pick as your fucking dream job. Like, we had it. It was really rad.
Yeah.
Before everyone had kids and all that too. And but
Well,
the
hey,
downside
it
there is that,
always changes. That's the thing. Because even when we were doing it, we go, "This is awesome," and in the back of my mind, I go, "Enjoy it now."
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember having those conscious thoughts, just like nowadays, like when I'm holding my 3-year-old, I'm like, he's not gonna be 3 forever. Just enjoy it. Like, even if I'm, holding him for 20 minutes straight and he won't let me put him down.
Yeah.
I still really make a conscious effort to enjoy it. But yeah, that said, like, we were we one of the problems was that we had such great success and everything was so easy. Everything we did worked for a while. Like,
Yeah.
everything was working. And that made the team, I think that made the team think that business is easy. Like,
Yeah.
everything works. And so let's just start a bunch of new projects because everything works. And then we did. We like it was like each individual person on the team was like, I got this new thing that I want to do. And so now everyone's starting their own projects. And then once everyone started their own projects, and I did not do a good enough job of saying, okay, let's pull the reins. It was kind of like, by that time I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, like let's pour some gasoline on this thing and start a bunch of cool projects and it'll be awesome. But we weren't organized well enough, and and we didn't do things slow enough where we kind of outran ourselves there for a little while. And then we came in and cut a bunch of projects and kind of got us back to some stable footing for a while. And that really, that was one learning lesson. I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I'm not overextending ourselves like that again. It's okay to be slow and steady and consistent, and to have a pile of money put into a project that's like dedicated to that new project, rather than just siphoning money out of our primary revenue stream to start a bunch of new shit. Because I think for a while there, people just thought that, like some people on the team just like didn't really consider that we needed to keep maintaining the things that were working and that were making all the money. And we were kind of handcuffed in a way where, we got a 6-figure payroll, and now we want to do a bunch of other things that aren't the primary thing making all the money, but you can't. Like you're kind of handcuffed into this situation where now you have a big staff, and so you have to keep paying them, which unfortunately also on the other end of this is how big companies kind of end up selling out, so to speak. They kind of get stagnant because, if your payroll is $500 million a month, well, if you want to just cut, you go, we don't want to do that business model anymore, we want to move on to a whole new model. What, are you going to just fire like 20,000 people and just be like, nah, we want to do something new? Some people, you can do that, but that's a big decision to make. That shouldn't be like a willy-nilly, like we want to go do something new for fun. That should be like a very serious thought out, like we're closing down this other thing and we're doing this new thing, and you're assigned to this project and you're assigned to this project, and there's not so much crossover. Certainly easier to do in a big business than a small business, to have people siloed into departments and all that. But I feel like we learned that lesson, and now hopefully I won't won't do it the same way again in the future.
Man, there's so much gold in there. Really is so much gold. I would say, I want to recap some of that in my own thoughts. The belief that business was easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're right. There were things that we did. Well, here's the thing. I was just having a conversation with my buddy last night, who the guy is one of the most financially successful people I've ever met in my life. And we're hanging out, and he's talking about, he goes, that you've nailed your offer and your marketing when you're doing $3-4 million, or you're having $300,000 months, and it's just easy. And you're like, oh my God. And he goes, that's when you know it's time to scale. And you just scale. And you just double down, triple down, quadruple down, quintuple down. And he was talking about, you may think that your cap on Facebook ads is five grand a day. It's like, nope. He says, it's always higher than you think it is. It might be 50 grand a day. It might be $500,000 a day. You don't know to hit the cap. And here's the thing is, we never found out. Because and hearing what you're saying right now, and the conversation I was having with my friend last night, is it's like, yeah, we found something that was ready to scale, and then we started another project. Because that was the place we were in at the time in business. Was for whatever reason, our process was scaling meant going broader instead of deeper. And so, and I mean, I knew that
we'd only run small companies that like always in startup mode, where you're just starting new projects all the time.
Yeah.
We had trouble kind of shifting into the scaling. We scaled a little bit, but not as much as we could at all.
No, I think we scratched the surface of it, really. There was, when I look at it now, I mean, it could have been 5, 6, 7, 8 times bigger than what it was. Had we stayed focused into a single product. I mean, I when I talk to people now, I say you guys remember the 6-month muscle gain challenge? It's like that made us so much money. There's so many people that went through that program, and
yeah, we made 7 figures on one program alone.
Yeah, like we could have, had we just kept doing that one. Had we just kept doing that one program and just made it better and better and better, it would have it would have, man, I don't even know. Like it would have been a much smoother, easier way of doing business. I also look back on, I've done a lot of reprogramming of this thing called Mike, and uh, there was definitely a, like, one of the things I noticed. I noticed a really big shift in my own in doing business, and I'm way more conservative now in a lot of ways. In that, I put I used to put so much pressure on the business. Like, we always need to be doing something new and more, and all this. I was like always working hard, and I went through a process where I really looked into what was causing me to have this like work hard mentality. And when I started really looking at it, I saw that I would choose hard work over smart work, because what I had learned at a young age is that unless you're working hard, you're not valuable. It's like, oh, okay, if I want to be loved, then I need to be working hard, even though like there's enough money being made, like we're making enough money. It
Mhm.
would be really easy to scale versus start new projects. Like, I look back, and I'm not saying that all those decisions were made because of that one belief, but I look back and I go, oh, I had a tendency to make those types of decisions. When something was easy and working well, it was time to start a new project,
Mhm.
because to go deeper into a single project was actually easier. And so I had an aversion to something making a lot of money and it being easy.
Mhm.
And uh and the result of that now is, and we were talking about this, is the during our relationship, we switched a lot of times. I became more conservative, you became more aggressive, this and that. And there were parts of ourselves that got to develop, essentially, that were underdeveloped before we became business partners. And I look at partnerships in general, and friendships and romantic relationships, and a lot of times the reason for the relationship is to cause a certain level of development, and then it might be over. So like that may be true with you and me. And that, when I look at what I've been doing with the strong coach, is it's like way more conservative. My buddy I was hanging out with last night was like, dude, why don't you get it up to this amount and this amount and this amount? And I'm like, you know what? I want to make sure the product's super solid. I got a lot of my team, a lot of people on my team I'm developing right now. He goes, but if you don't hit, 10 million within 3 years, then then it can cause a problem. I'm like, maybe. And I'm like, I just don't care. Like, I feel good. The business is doing really well. The coaching is going well. Everything's going really, really well. I am playing around with some other side projects, but not like I used to. And
Mhm.
it was like, oh wow. Like, I'm looking at myself, I'm like, wow, I'm having to explain to him, he's younger, like, why I don't value, making $100 million as quickly as possible as I did 5 years ago. 5 years ago, that was like the only thing on my mind.
Mhm.
Uh, and the way I was going about doing it was incorrect, by my own standards. Now I wouldn't do it the same way, obviously. Um, and Yeah, man, it's crazy to look back and go, oh, okay, this is what I learned. And what I love now is helping other people go, hey man, I did that over there. She's like, just cut that shit out.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like when I first started business, the unspoken assumption in my mind was that you want to get as big as you can as fast as you can, and that's like the path to fulfillment and happiness. And that's just not true. Like you can pick there may, for your temperament and personality type and all that, there may be a size of a company that is 5 people large, or 10 people large, or 50 people large, that is way more fun, way more fulfilling. You still have plenty of money. That if you built your company up to 1,000 people, maybe you wouldn't like it anymore. Kind of like a CrossFit gym. Like, you build your CrossFit gym up to 90 people, maybe you're having a blast every day, and then you 10x it, and now you got 900 people in this big facility, and no one's really your best friend. Like, like you don't have that vibe when you're just like hanging out with like your crew the same way when there's 900 people and you're running around just chaotically all day trying to take care of all the fires that are burning.
Yeah.
and you're not hanging out with your friends anymore. And all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck am I doing here? I am making more money, but I'm miserable. You don't have to be miserable by being a big company, but in this example, like bigger might be more headache and smaller might be more fun. And you might be, financially secure in both cases.
Yeah. And what's true today may not be true in 5 years. So,
Mhm.
you know, I'm I'm sitting here now and loving exactly the way it is. And shit, I lost a thought now too. But we've lost one thought apiece on this show.
We burned a lot of brain cells together over the years. Now it's coming back to bite us. Yeah, like right now, like I kind of like that
Mm,
that my company is smaller than it was. I have less people demanding things from me because in my family life, I have way more people pulling strings and and tearing me all kinds of different directions. Just having a wife and 3 young kids. I got a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and 5-year-old, and it's kind of nice not having to work as often as I may need to work if my company was a little bit larger. Like I don't work that much compared to people that work a lot, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
especially right now, like during this whole quarantine thing, like I wake up at 4 in the morning, I start work at 4:30, I work to about 7:30, and then in the afternoon, I might get like another hour of work in, but the rest of the day, I'm 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 parenting. I'm hanging out, playing with my kids. Like it's not all stressful. I ride a lot of bikes and I ride a lot of scooters and I play on swing sets a lot. Like a lot of it's fun, but I'm not getting a lot of work done. And so really I only work like part time at the moment because I just
Yeah.
my wife watching all 3 kids. There's only so long you can do that before you get stressed out. And so I try to be there as much as I possibly can. The kids go to bed at 8:30, then I pretty much just try to spend a few minutes with my wife and then go to sleep and start the whole day over. It's like I'm busy all day, but I'm only working. I do it 7 days a week, so I guess it's not just part time, but it's like 30 hours a week. It's not
Yeah.
that much compared to people that are out there fucking in their corporate jobs or they're smashing 80-hour weeks.
What's
And,
funny
and,
is
and they
when,
have to be there doing it, and they don't have control over their schedule. Fuck, that sounds terrible.
yeah, agreed. Well, when we were partners, I know I worked more than I do now, like at least double.
Yeah.
Well, like I work part-time now. The uh before this whole COVID-19 thing happened, I was legit part-time. I might put in like a 12-hour day one day, but then I'd be gone for 3 days. I'd disappear for a week. I'd work, I'd go to Arnold Sports Festival, work a solid 4 or 5 days. If I remind people a lot of times they go, "Oh, you're working a lot." I'm like, it looks like I'm working a lot. There's a lot of things happening. There's a team that's making shit happen and so on and so forth. But like I'm in spurts. I'll push real hard for a week or two and then disappear for a week. And I'm totally fine with that. I feel really good about it. It's a lot easier to be healthy when it's a lot easier to be a good example, which is what we should be doing in the field that we're in. Um, and yeah, I remember what I was thinking about earlier. And that is I'm really enjoying having a smaller team now too. So um like we have 10 people on the team and there's no reason I don't see a reason to have more right now. I could be completely wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if I brought another person on the team this year. And which means I probably am wrong. So if you want to, we'll see what happens, folks.
Yep. Changing your mind is totally allowed.
Totally allowed. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't believe that. I actually find a lot of people get stuck in business because they think they're like, well, if I write down a goal, I have to achieve it. I'm like, you can change
Yeah.
that any fucking time you want. Like,
Right.
if it no longer calls to you, don't do it. But
Yeah.
people have this idea of like, oh, I gotta do it. All I was gonna say is tangent city. But going back to the track I was on, I like having money. Like having a decent amount of money where you can do the things you want, travel the world, take time off, uh, drive a decent car, live in a great home, all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, where it's not a primary consideration. Like when I remember 5, 10 years ago, we'll say 10 years ago, whipping out my debit card at the grocery store, man, it fucking sucked. Just every time I spent money, it was just like, oh. And then getting to a point where it's like I just whip out a credit card, I swipe it, don't think about it. At the end of the month, there's plenty of money left over, all that kind of stuff. It's nice. I like having money. But what I used to believe that the only way to have money was to have a really large company. It's like I had in my head, like I bought into the hype, and that it's like, okay, because the people I was looking at as wealthy were entrepreneurs that are running big companies. It was like, it's been the sexy thing, run a tech company, or I mean, this is my perspective. I don't know how this is for the average American, but I'm like, oh, you want to be like powerful and wealthy? Well, you start a big company and you do something that makes a huge impact on the planet and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we got to do. Like, how do we do that inside of our context? And when I look at it now, I'm like, I don't need to do all that shit. Like, I can have a small business. We could do 7 figures, 8 figures, which, I mean, like doing $10 million a year still isn't that big in the grand scheme of things. There are people who like I have a few friends that they're like approaching or have passed the $100 million a year mark. And it's just like when that becomes a normal conversation, like when I'm talking about my business that's in the millions, it's like, it's actually not that. Like I'm a lot of people think this is big. I'm like, no, it's actually really fucking small.
I was listening to a talk with Peter Thiel, and he was talking about, it sounded like he was talking about poor people and how just like, they're just, man, it's just tough when you don't have any money, you're not doing anything. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, yeah, it's just like, if you're a single digit millionaire, you just, man, things are tough. I was like, excuse me? I thought you were talking about like $30,000 a year people just kind of scraping by. Got like 7 kids and you're a single mom and you're making $25,000 a year. No. He was talking about single digit millionaires.
Yeah.
Being broke.
What's funny is my friend who I was hanging out with last night, he was like, dude, business is hard until you make at least 3 or 4 million a year. He's like, until you hit that mark, it's a hustle. If you want to go beyond that, the first few $1 million a year, making $300,000 or $400,000 a month, that's the challenge. I like talking about this because people are listening are probably having a hard time making $4,000 to $10,000 a month, somewhere in that range. And it's like, dude, it's just adding a zero in there. It's all numbers. Some people are just playing with bigger numbers. Yeah, there's a totally different strategy for those types of things. But one thing that I have realized is it's all learned. You have to unlearn things and you have to relearn things in order for that to be true. If you want it to be true, then you can go after it. If you're happy where you're at, you can do that too. No big deal. But yeah, I used to think that, if I wanted to be wealthy, I needed to have this huge company. And now I'm looking at it and go, you know what? I could have like 10 people on the team. That's it. Make good money. And then I can take the profits of that good money and then I can invest it. Well, maybe put it in real estate or this or this or this. And the way I used to think about it was like all in one direction, not enough money left over to invest, put it back into business. It's something like I can control. Like the way I saw it is I can control this, which is a complete illusion. And
yeah, the control piece.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of influence. Control is up for debate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, you think you have control until COVID-19 hits and then closes your gym down. Do you have control? Fuck no, you don't. You thought you did. You don't.
I'm so glad we sold that gym, by the way, right now.
Dude, I know several people who
getting
sold
off the lease as well.
Yeah.
That was like actually kind of a recent thing that Rob told me that he finally got us off the lease, and then COVID hit like right afterward. I was like, oh man, like we were already out, but on paper we were still on that lease until recently.
I would have been like, come get me.
Yeah, me too. I was like, fuck, go for it. I'm out.
Call me lawyer.
I've learned that if you don't want to pay people money, you just don't give them the money. That's become very apparent to me that that's how it works.
Yeah, well, karma will come get your ass if it's
Someday.
one of those things where like you're right and yeah, yeah. I don't know. Sounds like something we should talk about, not on live podcast.
Private conversation,
That's right.
but fun at the same time.
You know what though? That happens in business, man. You think
It
you're getting
does.
paid, and then they just don't pay.
They just
Which is
decide I don't
like
want to pay you.
it's become normal though. It's become normal for me. It's like in a way, it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes someone's just like, I'm done. I don't have any money. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. All right, move on. Next thing. No big deal. Like,
Mhm.
oh shit. So what do you guys been up to? Like, you're only working part time, obviously, and uh, what shifted for Barbell Shrugged with COVID-19? Anything?
I mean, we were in a very fortunate spot. We didn't have to shift a lot because we already had a 100% virtual online company. We already had digital information products. We already had podcasts. We already had a social following, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the learning curve about what to do and like what the models look like to make money online, all that stuff was already in place. But we had just spent a good amount of time making the 1-ton challenge our flagship offering. Like we were kind of centering our brand around heavy barbell training,
Yeah.
weightlifting and powerlifting. And that's not something that a lot of people are able to do right now. And so the 1-ton challenge as our primary focus has now taken a back seat because just a lot of people don't have heavy enough weights in their garage to do powerlifting, or they don't have a garage gym at all, or they just don't have a garage at all. A lot of people just can't train right now. And so we had also just sopped out and systemized running 1-ton challenge events at people's gyms. Like you're a 1-ton challenge affiliate, and now we tell you how to run these events. We tell you how to use them for lead gen, et cetera, et cetera. So I had just set up a live events business basically, and I'd sold like 8 of them.
Oh
Like we had just
no.
started, they were just starting to sell. We had a sales guy all trained
Oh
up.
shit.
Like we had all kinds of people that were everyone was reaching out to us. Everyone was reaching out to us going, yo, I want to do that at my gym. That looks fucking rad. And we,
Dude, you
for a
know you
couple
got
people,
something good. You know you have something good when
yeah,
people are knocking at your door.
right.
Yeah.
And so finally we were just like, dude, we just need to like steal the CrossFit model and just make all these gyms 1-ton affiliates, and they can just pay us yearly affiliate dues, and they can run the event as many times as they want. We have upsells where we can come out and run the event for them and MC it and all that, and it can cost more money. And we do shows and ad and reads if they have stuff to promote. Like we had a whole tiered package put together that I was really excited about because it was going to be a lot of fun, and it was going
Dude,
to have the potential to make
sounds
potential to
awesome.
make great money. It'd be really fun.
That sounds like a fun job that you were creating.
Yeah. Yeah, every time we've done that, every time we've gone and like hosted a 1-ton challenge at someone's gym, you can go to 1tongym.com and look at any of this if any gym owners are interested, uh, and schedule a call with Anders and all that. Once we get back on our feet, we still want to do those things, of course, and gyms will want cool ways to kick off their grand reopening and whenever the hell all that happens. But we kind of just had to back out of that whole plan, unfortunately. And it's all still, you still can sign up for the 1-ton challenge if you just go to 1tonchallenge.com and check all that out, /join if you happen to have heavyweights in your garage.
There you
But
go.
yeah, but it's not really our focus right now, of course. We did the same thing every other person in the fitness industry did that makes any percentage of their revenue online. Was we instantly created some at-home bodyweight only training programs, just to give people something to do. I created 100 AMRAPs for time. It was 110-minute bodyweight only AMRAPs. You can do them. It's modular. You can do as many as you want in a day, but you're supposed to do 10 per week for 10 weeks. And so we put that out, and that's been selling really well. And then other things that you do at home, like everyone should be focusing on nutrition right now, and mobility, and maybe cardio. You can go for jogs still and get outside and all that. Like there's still fitness things available, but we are so heavy into the barbell centric 1-rep max style training as far as the brand and our offerings that we kind of had to shift gears. And so now I've created a bunch of new training programs. Actually, I sat down and for the first time in a long time, just started writing training programs, and now we're putting out basically one a week. For I have enough for months. They all kind of follow the same principles, but they all have slightly different goals and slightly different templates or styles that can match different people's personality types. Like, I think the CrossFit world did so well is because part of the reason they did so well is because the way they structured the workouts was in line with what people who are already innovators and early adopters wanted. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like, it was a
perfect
new
sense. Yeah.
thing, a lot of variety, where people that normally get bored really easily, quick starts, which tend to be people that are there. They are part of the early adopter / innovator crowd, and definitely the early majority. Like, all the people that would get a movement off the ground gravitated toward the architecture of the CrossFit programming model.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So anyway, we're putting out a bunch of new training programs right now. We have a very good rhythm for it. Mostly doing ebooks and just building out our online store. I'm putting out an advanced bodyweight only training program. Next week that's being built right now. I'm doing a workout called EMOM Aesthetics. I've wanted to do an EMOM / AMRAP only program for a long time, where it's just 20 minutes a day, but done in a way that I think is sustainable and enjoyable, rather than just metconning yourself into the ground, which is where a lot of people end up.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to create a functional bodybuilding program for a long time, because it's really kind of more in line with how I train these days. I'm training just to, like, be healthy, feel good, look good, and then be strong and conditioned for jiu-jitsu. And I kind of mostly do functional bodybuilding stuff. And so I created this EMOM Aesthetics program that I've been doing for the last, I'm on week 5 right now, and fuck, dude, I wake up every day and I'm stoked to do it. I'm just like, it's been really enjoyable. I really created it for me, and then was like, man, I got to just push this out to a larger audience, and if anyone wants to do it, it's available. I'll kick you a link to it. You can check it out.
Yeah, please. That'd be
You
great.
may, I don't know where you're at with your training these days, but you may actually like want to do it, because again, it's only 20 minutes, 5 days a week.
Dude, I think that would be good for so many people. So many people, especially, like, I was talking to my friend last night. We were talking about fitness. He's like, I want to work on my body. I'm like, all right. Cause, like, without a gym, he doesn't know what to do. Like, he's used to going to a gym, and he's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I've been lucky in that I haven't had a consistent gym in years. So I figured out how to train without one a while back. I definitely want to check out what you have going on, because I believe it or not, I'm in a very structured routine right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think something like that, 20 minutes a day. I think when you go to the gym, it's easy to invest an hour, but when you're working out at home, for some reason, people want to get it done faster. I think part of it is like, I know for me is there are things I do to set up the environment in the house for me to train, because now it's training time. But if I don't do that, then it's easy to walk over to my laptop and, like, oh yeah, I thought of this thing, and start working, or someone walks through and starts talking to me, and I'm like, eh. So I think a lot of times investing an hour or two of training in a house can be a really big challenge because of the distractions.
Right.
If it's shorter, like 20 minutes, and then it's on the minute, then it's like, boom, engaged. There's no opportunity to get lost doing something else.
Right. Yeah. Like, for my particular situation, like, again, watching my kids, all 3 of them at the same time, is a handful. And so we wanted to have something where we could just be like, I'm going to go do, I rarely do the whole 20 minutes in a row. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I do 10, because it's structured where it's 2 movements that ping pong back and forth for 5 rounds. So you have like a first 10 minutes and the second 10 minutes. So there's a clear break in the middle where if you want to take a break, that's the time to do it.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'll do 10 minutes, a couple minutes to warm up, of course, and then I'll do 10 minutes, and she'll watch the kids for 15 minutes, and that's like a tolerable amount of time. And then we switch, and then we switch again. And that's usually how we do it at my house. That way we can get our workouts in, but it's done in a way where it's not like, all right, peace, I'm going to go train for an hour and a half. Good luck with the kids. And then you're just like counting the seconds until your partner comes back and helps you.
Yeah, I think you should market this to parents, man. Do like a parent
Yeah.
workout thing. Like, oh yeah, and then you switch. It sounds fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, Anders is all about it. It's called the Diesel Dad.
The Diesel
The
Dad.
Diesel Dad. We're on top of it. Totally. Like there's a lot of guys that are just like us. Like they're still relatively young. They're in shape. They have kids. Like they're not competing in anything in any really serious kind of way, but they still want some fairly hardcore but very time efficient workouts. The Diesel Dad, man.
Love it. Love it. Dude, I'm having an opposite experience out here. What I'm hearing when I interact with people, I'm hearing like I'm having a hard time getting a routine. Like the COVID-19 thing like threw everything off. And I went from living a, we'll call it chaotic lifestyle to oh, you have just stay in one spot, just one spot for a month. I'm like, okay,
uh,
okay, what?
how do you do that?
Like a weekend, like I'm just used to like moving however I feel like moving, and then a weekend I go, let's do a routine. Let's get fucking strong. Let's get fucking strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and I'm working with some guys in the military right now, so it's like the amount of structure that they have is inspiring to a degree, and then also like I'm just not as strong as I used to be because of how much traveling is going on and just not the consistency. So I've been training the last month and I am fucking in great shape.
Yeah.
Like I'd say 5 weeks now of just very consistent. I'm going, I actually thought I was attributing some of like what was happening with my fitness to age. And then now I'm going, oh, I was traveling so much that fucking my body couldn't catch up. I was always just like managing whatever asymmetries I had, or I was doing a lot of still do a lot of corrective exercise, but it's like all I had time for was corrective exercise, and then maybe a couple of something heavy, and that was it.
Yeah.
But now getting a ton of really good training, and I'm fucking loving it. But one of the things that I got hip to was like frequency it can be even more beneficial. So what you're talking about is you do 10 minutes in the morning, maybe 10 minutes in the afternoon. That's better than doing it all together as far as from like a general health perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you train for an hour and then you're sedentary the rest of the day, it's not nearly as good as if you train 10 minutes 3 times and you keep that blood flowing throughout the day, keep things awake, all that kind of stuff. You find the same to be true?
Yeah, I do. Typically with those 20-minute workouts, we will do them back to back. But then in the afternoon, again, I'm in my I've only been in one building one time in the last 6 weeks. That wasn't my house. I went to Lowe's one time to get some lights.
Did you get the Rona?
Got the Rona. So I'm just cooped up in my house all day long. I'm lucky that I live on a cul-de-sac, so my kids can play in the street really easy. I got a good backyard and all that. So I can get outside, but I don't really go that many places. But anyway, just to get out of the physical place that I live once in a while, like sometimes I'm just like, fuck, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna run the loop. That's like our thing. We just go, I'm running the loop, and you just jog out the front door and you run the loop. Loop takes about 15 minutes and you're back and you're done. No warm-up required. You can just leave at any time. And that's usually how we end up getting the second workout of the day. We run the loop probably, 3 or 4 days a week.
That's dope.
Yeah.
What do you think
my
is
cardio
going
is great right now.
All right, so you're interacting with gyms at different times. You're interacting with a lot of athletes. You're responsible for putting out information that athletes follow. So you're engaging with people in the fitness industry. What do you think is going to happen when the gyms open back up? Do you think that as many gyms will open back up? Do you think as many people will go back to training, or do you see a shift? Do you have a prediction for if it opens up tomorrow versus 6 months? I know I asked you like 5 questions.
Yeah.
I broke a fucking cardinal rule of interviewing, but I know you can handle it.
I have all of them in order in my head. Regarding gyms opening back up, I think there'll be a lot of people that they weren't doing that well already. And whether they're actually already out of business or out of money or bankrupt or whatever it is, like they may choose to just fuck, man, it's just going to be a grind moving forward. Just the whole model is not, it wasn't a great way to make money in the first place. You know, it was possible to survive, but it's difficult to make any real money. So a lot of people might just opt out, just like, you know what, like I'm just not doing it. So a lot of gyms won't reopen, I think. They'll just liquidate and sell their equipment and move on and find something else to do.
I
The
know
gyms that
people
choose,
selling equipment right now already.
oh yeah,
Yeah, they're
yeah, there's got to be people selling equipment,
within the first week, everything closed down. There's one guy in LA who was just like, come get it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the people asking about basic stuff. They're like, I want to buy a box, but Rogue sold out of boxes. I'm like, just call up any gym owner right now and just say, hey, you guys want to sell your equipment? Because a lot of them are probably like, oh, thank God, someone's coming to me trying to give me money. I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of them won't reopen. The people that do, you know, they'll have to change their model in a lot of ways, you know, because we're not, if we get a vaccine at all, it's still, you know, a year or two away or whatever it is. And so, you know, COVID's not going away. And so the social distancing thing is going to stick around, whether the government like says, okay, everyone go back to work or not. Still, people are going to be cautious just for themselves. Like people don't want to get sick themselves. They don't want to get their parents sick, or, you know, older people that have risk factors. It's not just old people, of course. Like half the people that get sick and die are not old people. So it could happen to basically anybody. So nobody wants to just automatically opt into that. So they're still going to be very cautious. So I think it'll turn into all the gyms will have smaller classes and everyone have to be spread out. You have to wipe your bars down after, you know, with Lysol or whatever it is, after every training session. Like they'll have mandatory rules about when you come in the gym, like you wash your hands. That's the first thing you do when you get there. Like those, I think those types of interactions will,
Don't breathe
those
on
types of
anybody.
rules. Yeah, no breathing. Yeah, dude, I feel like it's going to be, how long is it going to be before you just meet some random person and you just give them a hug?
I thought
Be
you were going to say
years.
make out with them. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, any of that stuff. Like, I'm so glad that I'm not like, I didn't like dump my girlfriend, you know, like 6 weeks ago, and I'm like, fuck yeah, back on the market, and then, bam, smashed. I know a guy.
I know a guy. I know a guy. I didn't do that verbatim, but
Totally.
I went on a little celibacy run leading up
Yeah,
to
at the wrong
this.
time.
I was like 100 days. You know, I was thinking like 90, 100 days. And then I was like coming to the end of it, and then this hit, and I was like,
All right.
unknown amount of time.
Indefinitely changing my goal to forever.
Unknown amount of time.
Fuck.
I've just accepted it at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's definitely been a conversation of amongst people. I mean, I'm used to hanging out with people who are very touchy feely, and I think a certain segment of the population, the mainstream, the average person's terrified of other people right now. They're terrified of the thing, you know, the invisible enemy, all that stuff. And I think, I mean, there's going to be a divergence in the population. There always is. Anytime there's a something like this, and so you're gonna have a small percentage of the population who's in touch with themselves. So like they know how they feel. They know they lead with intuition. A lot of times they take care of themselves. They understand what makes them feel good, what doesn't feel good, all that kind of stuff. And also are like friendly to getting dirty and having like a really diverse, you know, whatever. There's certain people I've talked to. They're like, yeah, maybe I should just expose myself to it now if I haven't already been exposed to it. That way I can get it over with. You know, people with that type of mentality, I think, like I'm gonna have to ease back into physical touch. I know that. Like
Yeah.
I've taken time away from physical touch before. This isn't the first time. This is probably the longest since I was in the Navy. But yeah, I'm thinking about just like hugging strangers again is like, I want to, like, I have the desire to do that, but I don't know if A, is it gonna feel weird for me? Because if I don't hug people for a while, I start feeling mechanical. And then how do they feel? Like you can't hug someone and have like a great hug if they don't feel safe. So if what's running through their head when they're like, maybe if they're like feeling obligated to give you a hug, but they don't feel safe, it's just going to create awkward hugs.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's going to be, I think there'll be, like you were saying, like small pockets, like I might have a dinner party with a certain crew and everyone has a similar mentality and physical touch is easy.
Mhm.
And then, but yeah, out in the general world, like handshakes and all that kind of stuff, that could be challenging.
Yeah.
Um,
I think if you have like a really tight group of friends, um, you know, I, we have a mutual friend, our friend Gabby. She told me this, where she has some friends who um, they are very intentionally isolating themselves from everyone. So they'll spend like 7 days or 14 days or whatever it is, like just in their house, and their friends will do it too. And then they will all go hang out with each other. So like it's like they, this is not perfect by any means, but since you can be asymptomatic and all that, but they're not showing any symptoms. Everyone is apparently not sick. They haven't talked to any other people or even like really been outside their house. And then they have the other people that have committed to doing the same. And then now they can hang out together and feel reasonably safe about it. So if you have friends that are willing to do that, like don't talk to anybody. Just we only talk to each other. We don't interact with anyone else in person. And you have ways to get your food and whatever else you need in your home, then that might be, people might start figuring out strategies kind of like that eventually may become mainstream.
yeah. Well, one of the things I'm doing right now is, well, I'm in Utah. I decided to get out of the city for this whole thing, and which fucking love it. And but I have a few people I hang out with outside of the couple people I have in the house with me, and but everyone's young and healthy. Everyone's young and healthy, and it's being smart. Like
Mm.
when like in the beginning of this, I would go over to my buddy's house, and like a week or two in, I'm like, he rented a house down the street. We just rented some Airbnbs over here, and I go over there, and he's like, "So you want to smoke a joint?" I'm like,
Let me think about it.
I was like, where have you been? Like, kind of like, what you been up to, man?
Yeah.
He's like,
Or like
dude.
you're sharing the joint and you want to put it in your mouth.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not putting that in my mouth.
Right. I gotcha.
and
I gotcha.
and it was like, I was like, where have you been? He's like, dude, I'm good. I'm good. I've quarantined myself for 2 weeks. Da, da, da. I'm like, all right, cool. Because he came from Europe. Right.
Mm.
Like he had to do like a legit promise the government he was going to do 14 days quarantine. He had to do that.
Mm.
So yeah, so yeah, for me, it's like I'm just avoiding people who are elderly and people who look sick. Someone's fat, fucking I stay away from them. If somebody looks inflamed, they're all puffy, stay away from them. I mean, like I made a post about this a week or two ago. It was like I see sick people, and most people who call themselves healthy, when I look at them, I go, they look sick, and they have bags under their eyes and their joints are a little swollen, and uh, just the body is not working optimally. You can tell that something's off. And I was like, okay, they're not well. But the average person goes, unless you're 100 pounds overweight or a doctor told you that you have too much sugar in your blood or something like that, that you're fine. And anyways, yeah, so I do see all healthy people coming together, and then to be a divergence. Because here's the thing: is like healthy people hang out together, they just get healthier. Unhealthy people isolate themselves. I mean, just like anything that isolates itself dies. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a family. I had a distant family member pass away yesterday. She was by herself. She's by herself in a home, and like
Yeah.
they're used to getting out and doing things, and they came to her room and found her dead. And I'm like, I'm as soon as I heard the news and I was told like how it all happened, I'm going like, I'm not a big believer in just saying how long we can make people live or anything like that. I think the average person is so terrified of death that the only solution is how do we live forever? But uh the and I'm looking at it, I was like, she probably wouldn't have died this point if she wasn't isolated, if she was out being social, all this stuff. And it's like, what's more dangerous? What's more dangerous is making sure we don't get this one virus, is it or is it more dangerous to isolate ourselves? You take a cell out of a organism and you isolate it, it fucking dies. It needs that. We need that. We need that connection.
Hmm.
And we're all doing it
Yeah.
electronically right now, which is great, but it's a nice short-term solution.
Yeah. Well, it's like that Harvard study that has been going on for like 70 something years now or whatever it is, where they took a bunch of Harvard guys, so reasonably
Oh
well
yeah.
off, well-to-do people, back in the 40s or whenever this whole thing started, and they also took a bunch of people like from the Bronx in New York City, like lower income, not on the professional track, like didn't graduate high school or whatever it is. And so people are kind of on the
Probably
opposite
physical
ends.
laborers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So like they have these people that they don't have the same lives at all. They have kind of opposite lives, we'll say for the moment. And they have followed those people to now, many of them have already died, but there's still a few guys that started that study when they were in their early 20s and are now like 94 years old or whatever it is. And along the way, they have kept this study going the whole time. There's been like 4 people total that have been in charge of this study. You get it for 20 years and then you move on with your life, and a new guy takes it over 20 years, and they've kept it going. And what they've found through that study was regarding longevity, that social ties were the #1 predictor of longevity, even over all the other comorbidities you could have, or um, any blood markers that could be out of whack. You mentioned blood sugar a second ago, or your lipids, or your blood pressure, or obesity, or whatever it is. All these markers of physical health were not as important as having strong social ties to keep people alive, assuming you're dying of natural causes or whatever it is, not getting hit by a bus. So that's something that the closeness and the quality of your strongest social relationships was one piece, and then the other piece was I forget what the exact terminology they layered over to this, but it was something along the lines of like social. Are you socially connected? Like, do you just talk to anyone that's around you? When
Mm.
you're checking out at the grocery store, do you strike up a conversation with the cashier? Like if you happen to be standing in line at the bank, do you say something to the person next to you and joke around for 2 seconds, or have a real conversation? Like the people that talk the most with just random people throughout the day, they were predicted to live much longer than the people that were a little more isolated or intentionally living in solitude.
Yeah.
Now we're all we're all forced to live in solitude for the moment. So as far as mental health goes, and depression and anxiety, I think we're going to have a lot of that creeping up in the percentage of the population that is depressed or has some mental distress, like on a level they've never had before, is going to be really, really high. But at the same time, I actually think suicide is going to go down.
Right
Suicide
now
typically
it's up, I think.
is it?
I think
I,
so.
I, I feel like I I was thinking that it would probably go down um, because everyone's lives are all fucked up right now, but it's no one's fault. Like have you
Yeah.
heard of the um, there's no one left to blame theory of suicide? Like our modern lives are so great that if you're not where you want to be, it's your own fucking fault. That's like
Right.
the thought process that goes into
Mm.
people committing suicide. Whereas before, like if you were like in a dictatorship and like you just had no control of your life, um, or you're in a recession and everybody's going out of business. Well, now you can point to something else to blame. You don't have to blame yourself anymore, and so suicide goes down. And I think
Yeah.
that's really common with recessions.
My thing on suicide, and I'm not looking at any stats or anything like that. This is just from personal experience, knowing people who commit suicide, and and like really processing that for myself is like, bottom line, like I think that people are just in more pain than they know what to do with. Emotional pain, psychological pain, maybe physical pain. I'm in so much pain. I'm tired of being in pain. I don't know what else to do. The only thing I know how to, the only thing I can do to relieve myself of this pain is to kill myself. And
Mhm.
so that's been largely my take on it. And and of course, I'm just one person, uh, and looking at how I perceive this issue. But yeah, I think that here's the thing, man. It's just like we're on the planet is on a psychedelic journey right now, and there's two things that psychedelics do. You know, you go on a psychedelic journey, and there's two things that happen. Is one, everything bubbles up to the surface that you were trying to fucking suppress before, right? You're like, I don't want to think about it. I'll just fucking shove that down. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to shove it down. And then like you go on a psychedelic journey, like, hey, motherfucker, remember this? Like, fuck. So
Mhm.
it's it's and
That
that's
could be
what
uncomfortable
yeah,
when it happens.
it can be uncomfortable. And this is how like a lot of times people go, oh, they call those things bad trips. I'm like, man, that's maybe challenging experience, but it was usually 10, 9.9 out of 10 times is very fruitful. On the back end of that is like, oh fuck, man, I'm so glad. That was a rough, maybe I shouldn't have taken 5 hits of acid, but you know what? Like,
Mhm.
like I feel better now. And that thing I was ignoring, I actually worked through it and I put it down in my journal and I have awareness around it. And now I have action steps on how to make my life better.
Yeah.
So like we're in a psychedelic experience in that everything's bubbling up that people were trying to ignore before, right? Like their domestic violence is high, divorce rates are high, uh, uh, just those two markers right there. It sounds sad. Like at first glance, I'm going, that's sad, and at the same time, of like, who's committing domestic violence? It's people who were already had problems before. It's just now like bubbling up. It's like, oh, these are the symptoms are coming to the surface so it can be processed.
Yeah. All the people on
Um,
the fence got pushed over.
yeah, yeah. And then the other thing is it speeds the other thing psychedelics do that is happening with this is it speeds up what's already is. Like this is already happening. We're already learning this. We're already going through this process. Here's the go button. Some people may feel like it put a stop to things, but what my perspective on this whole thing is everything's happening faster. Every coach I know that was wanting to go online, guess what? They're online now. Like
Mhm.
I had I had 3 different clients that had gyms that were wanting to go online, and we were like slowly making the transition. And
Yeah.
then boom, they're online the next day. And
Right.
everyone goes, oh, this is such a gift. And so like we have divorce up and domestic abuse up and domestic violence up, but why do we know that it's up? It's because it's being reported. And I imagine the police are intervening. I imagine that if we know that these stats are up, then maybe there's a big cleanup happening. And people are just going, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going
Mhm.
to be in this relationship where there's violence anymore. Because what happened is we had all these outlets we could blow off steam. And I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people. This happened for a lot of people, which is we use exercise to blow off steam. So we say exercise is my therapy or something like that. But is it therapeutic? Are you doing the exercise and then being with what is, and then you come out of the exercise being more accepting of whatever it is that was upsetting you before? Not usually the case. It's usually
Mhm.
fuck everybody. I'm having a bad day. Stay out of my face. I'm going to lift this bar as fast as I can. I'm going to do this as fast as I can. Ugh! And
Yeah.
then,
It's a
and then,
distraction.
yeah, 48 hours, 72 hours later, fucking mad again. Got to blow off steam again. It's not therapeutic, but we call it therapy because we're blowing off steam. That
Mhm.
shit just fucking like that toy got taken away from that child. It's like, oh, guess what? You can't distract yourself with crazy exercise anymore. It's like, what are you going to do with that? You know, but that's
Right.
one example out of like how many people lost, you know, they don't have their job, which was a distraction from the family and this and this and this. So of course, I'm always going to look for the positivity, the silver lining and everything. And so I'm looking at this as like a big social and cultural detox, and that anything that was toxic before is not everything, but a lot of things that were toxic in our culture and society is bubbling up. And a lot of people don't like it. The majority of people go, this is bad. This is bad. I don't want this. I don't want this anymore. But in 5 years, look back and be like, fuck, man, I'm so glad we went through that transition. It was tough, but here we are. And on the economic markets too, man, dude, I don't know what's going to happen to housing, cars. There's going to be a huge surplus of cars in the market. Every market I look into, I'm discovering that there's an issue. The food supply chain is we're experiencing some bottlenecks. It's like, oh, there's plenty of food and there's plenty of customers, supply and demand, but there's a bottleneck in the middle. And so things that are processing food are getting shut down for various reasons. A surplus in cars because all these car rental places aren't renting cars right now. They're going to have to offload their inventory. Well, what's that going to do to the new car market? Well, it's going to make everything cheap. Gas went negative, like oil went negative. I don't even know what the fuck that means.
Yeah, that's wild. I
Like
heard
it
that
went
too. I
from
was
like,
like, what do you mean?
and it's futures. It's betting on the value of it in the future. But I mean, negative $35 a barrel. I mean, I don't know what it is now, but like, I don't know what hardly any of this means, let alone all of it. But what I know is like major disruption. So I say it's like a psychedelic trip. Someone comes back from their first 5-gram mushroom journey and they go, everything's different. And everyone in their life is going, oh, Johnny just ruined his life. He's like, no, he just made a bunch of changes really fast. And it was a little jarring for everybody. But guess what? He's still fine. Actually, he's living his best life ever. Let him go.
He'll be all right. Yeah, I feel like long term, this is going to create a lot more wealth for the economy. It's like so many people, to use our previous businesses as an example here, like we were making money at the gym at our physical location. We went online. Also, we're making way more money online than we were making in our physical location. And we were able to keep both of those things. Right now, a lot of people, they can't do their in-person physical thing. So they're doing everything online. But once the in-person thing opens back up, they'll still have the online thing running and the physical thing will open back up. And so now so many people will have more offerings because now they're digital, and they have more scalability because they're digital. And so they don't need to cancel the digital thing, because I think a lot of people will come to like it. Almost everyone I know that was doing a physical thing and then is now doing a digital thing prefers the digital thing. It's just a better lifestyle. Yeah. And so many people know how to work remotely now. It's pushing the whole world online. There's going to be way more people that are going to be running their own companies. They're going to be independent contractors. All that was already in motion, and this just really accelerated all and pushed a lot of competition to our world. That's what it did.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think a lot of gyms have the opportunity when they do something online is make that part of your in-person offering. It's a beautiful time. It's a beautiful time if you know how to direct your attention appropriately. If this seems like a big kick in the nuts, it's a matter of where your attention's at, period. And you can disagree with me, but I don't care.
Well, I mean, some people it's kicking the nuts no matter how they look at it. If they didn't have a lot of savings and both, assuming these people married my example, if they both lost their jobs and they didn't have a lot of savings, and they got kids and they're just fucking absolutely smashed, and there's no way they can go back to work anytime soon, then it's pretty much just a kick in the nuts.
You're right, Doug. You got me. I was wrong. My worldview is so small at times. I'm like, oh yeah, like everyone. It's like, no. Some people are like, all they know is working for somebody else, which does make it very hard to pivot if you don't have control over what you're doing.
Yeah. some people are in a very bad spot right now.
Yeah.
We're very fortunately not in as bad of a spot as many people. But yeah, some people are in a really bad spot. But to your point, though, the essence of what you're getting at is that the world has changed. There's a lot of new opportunity, and instead of feeling sorry for yourself, you should be looking to see what opportunity that wasn't there 2 months ago is now there for you to take.
Yeah. Yeah. I see way more opportunity than I can take advantage of right now. It's one of those things where I'm on the phone with the team and we're talking. I'm just like, dude, we could offer this. We could, like all these opportunities for new things. And I'm just like, yeah, I'd give these ideas away. It's like, oh, there's opportunity here, here, here. Just go take them. If you're looking for something to do and want to be an entrepreneur, there's, I don't know, DM me. Uh, yeah, man, it's time to bounce. It's time to bounce. I'm glad you're able to hop on and chat. This was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me. It's always good to hang out and catch up, especially over video chat, since I don't get to see you very often these days. It was really fun.
Where can people find what you're up to, what Barbell Shrugged is doing, all that?
All the basics, where I personally am on Instagram, I'm Douglas E. Larson. Barbell Shrugged is barbell_shrugged on Instagram, and then barbellshrugged.com has essentially everything. We have a new website that we really simplified, and it's very easy to navigate. We have all of our bigger online training programs under the programs tab, and then we have a store that has kind of our shorter term programs, mostly ebooks, anything between 4 and 10 week programs, as opposed to our longer 12, 18, 24 month programs. Putting a lot of new products in there right now. Again, I'm super excited, kind of the most excited about the EMOM aesthetics program that we just launched here very recently. It's $47, so it's less than $5 a week, and it's I'm as biased as it gets, but I think it really is quite good. So if you're looking for something that's more functional bodybuilding, easier on your joints and very time efficient, it's a great structure to work out with.
Awesome. Looking forward to checking it out. All right, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. See you later.
Bye-bye. You bet. Thanks, dude.